right, this is Aaron Ossont with the latest episode of Ossont and Battery on the Flamekeeper network. And my next guest is a really great guest I've been wanting to have for a while. This is Otto Kinzel from the band Dust Prophet from Manchester, New Hampshire. So welcome, Otto.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. It's awesome to be here.
Awesome, dude. Great. So first thing, your name is Otto. Do you love to get blotto?
Yes. Well, actually, I did many years ago. I'm actually, I have been in recovery for many years, well over a decade. So, yeah, I've heard it all before in terms of the Simpsons character and all that.
I had to see the reference. So
yeah, it's all good.
So first of all, how did Dust Prophet get started? I first heard about you guys, I think maybe around 2018, 2019, something like that, maybe.
Yeah. We started off, the lineup that's in Dust Prophet now is not how we originally started out. So I'm thinking probably around 2018 or so, myself and Sarah Wappler, who's the bass player, we started the band. There were two other people involved. We were originally a four-piece, but we were very different. We had a female vocalist and a different drummer, and we played in drop D, so we had more of a rock kind of sound, like stoner rock. And it just was a different vibe. It didn't really work out. We released a few singles in that lineup. Nothing really went anywhere. So come during the pandemic, everybody's on lockdown. That's where Sarah and I met Tyler McPherson, who's the drummer of the band now. And we decided to sort of, we actually were going to completely shut Dust Prophet down and just do something totally different. And so the version of Dust Prophet that exists today, Sarah and I consider that to be a completely different band. The only reason we used the name was because we already had a banner and stickers and like a Facebook page and all that other stuff. So it was like, well, I mean, instead of starting from absolute zero, we can start from like 2.5, you know? But it's a completely different band in terms of the sound and all that. I took over vocals. We were a three-piece. We started playing in drop C, so it had a deeper, slightly heavier sound. And that's where everybody sort of knows us now from when we released our first album, One Last Look Upon the Sky. So it was Sarah, Tyler, and myself. And then the person who mixed the album was Jason Doyle, who's our live guitar player. He went by his studio name, Jason Stelf, on the album. But it's the same guy, in case anybody's wondering. And when I decided I really just wanted to focus on vocals, because I was playing guitar and singing live, and I was doing both of them at only 50%. And I figured, it'd probably be easier to find a guitar player than to find another vocalist for the area that we live in. Yeah. Jason is a badass guitar player, and he already knew all the songs because he mixed the album. So he's already listened to every song 100-something times. Plus, he had all the individual tracks, so it was very easy for him to play. He could just isolate the guitar tracks anytime he wanted to and jam to those. Our first practice with him, he knew 5 songs inside and out, forwards and backwards, and we're like, all right, this is the guy. And it's allowed me to just be a vocalist and focus on that. So
now, as far as like the writing goes, what are like some of your influences, and who does the writing? Is it just you, or is there other like the Sarah help and whatnot, or
so it on the album One Last Look Upon the Sky, I write all of the lyrics. The music is sort of from everybody. So Sarah is a huge writer. She wrote the majority of the riffs on that album. So our more popular songs like When the Axe Falls and Hourglass and some of those songs, was it The High Capital? I'm drawing a blank at some of my own songs. Song 4. She wrote all those, like the music for them. She came in basically with like several riffs strung together, and we just jammed on them and sort of fleshed it out and just got the changes tight. And then I wrote some of the riffs, like Dear Mrs. Bud were a lot of the riffs I wrote. All of our new stuff since Jason has been, and the next album will showcase this. He's done a huge amount of writing, and he and Sarah have a very good interaction. Jason's more of like the crazy riff guy. He and I played it in an industrial metal band many years ago. So he's got that, like, I guess for lack of a better term, that Fear Factory, Dino Cavazos, like real tight right hand, intricate muting, alternate picking sort of thing. He almost has an extreme metal delivery in how he plays. And Sarah's more of like the groove, like tight rhythm, making it, getting in the pocket sort of player. So it's a really nice dichotomy between the two of them, and it just works really well. And I just stick to writing melody lines, vocal lines, and the lyrics.
Now, you mentioned how before, and I had noticed this too, like when I first started listening to you guys, were kind of more, like you said, a stoner rock sound. And now you kind of evolved into this kind of like doomy, but I don't even know how to describe it. But now, how did you decide to make that kind of turn? Or like you said, it wasn't working out that way. Was it more commercially, or just you guys just weren't feeling it?
You mean originally when we had the original lineup?
What made you decide to go from the original sound to this kind of new, sound? Which I really love the changes. I mean, I love the old stuff, but the new stuff is awesome.
Thank you. It just happened naturally when we decided to reform the band and Tyler joined. Sarah and I we weren't going to call it Dust Prophet. It was going to be a totally different band, and we consider this a totally different band, which is confusing because it's the same name. But I mean, it's a hard, like, severing of the cord right down the middle from the previous iteration. We wanted to have a slightly different sound and be heavier, so it just differentiated it. We had already made that decision to move in a different direction stylistically because we wanted it to be different. It's something Sarah and I had both wanted, and we were talking, well, if we're going to reform this and make it happen, let's do it this way this time and not make any compromises. And it was only like very late in the game when we decided we were going to start booking shows again that we're like, we kind of already have the Dust Prophet name out there. Again, I mean, we already had the Facebook page. We can't possibly start over with a new Facebook page, right? what am I going to do? Start a new Twitter? Like, come on. How are you going to do that? So, I mean, what about the 100 followers we have? They're going to be confused. And then, so we wanted to go with the lower tuning, and it just, when I started singing, it works with my voice much better because I'm obviously more of a baritone. And then Jason comes in the band, and so all the songs on One Last Look Upon the Sky are in drop C. Now we play them in drop B. So we went even lower in the tuning. And because like if you see us now we're much more of an actual metal band. Like, and then he bought a 7-string not too long ago. And so now he and Sarah are playing, I think it's in drop A flat or something like that.
Oh, wow.
And that's where I'm like, you guys figure out the tuning. I make sure I'll bring my microphone. I don't gotta worry about it. So and we're taking more of a direction in the like doom progressive like metal. I think when people hear the next album, there's going to be a clear shift in terms of more of an extreme metal sort of sound, maybe more but still very much doom. We want to still live in that world because we love it. So more sort of Godflesh. I mentioned Fear Factory earlier, maybe some more of like if you think like Ministry from the Filth Pig album, more in that sort of round, not with all the electronics necessarily, but just in the overall tone and vibe.
Now, as a vocalist, have you ever sang before, or is this your first time being a vocalist?
I had sang before. So Jason and I were in a band many years ago called Worm Drive, as I mentioned earlier. We were in an industrial metal band.
Okay.
I was the vocalist in that. I've primarily always been a guitar player, but I have sang in bands before. This is the first band that I sang in, though, where I've really like dedicated myself to be a vocalist. And I actually was very willing and eager to give up playing guitar because I wanted to jump in with both feet as being a vocalist. In the past, I've always sort of done it reluctantly. It was like, yeah, okay, I guess I'll sing, but like this is the first time where I've dedicated myself to trying to legitimately be a vocalist and taking lessons and doing all the practice and doing all the embarrassing exercises when I'm in my studio alone, you know, singing the scales like I'm Linda Ronstadt or something like that. And I want to be Chris Cornell. Like he's my all-time favorite vocalist. So like I know that sounds ridiculous coming from a random schmo like me, but like that's what I want to be, is the guy with the voice that could melt steel, you know? Like
Yeah.
that to me was who Chris Cornell was. And so I would like, you know, that would be my dream come true if I could ever like wave a magic wand and make it happen. So like I practice and I practice and I bought a special like resistance breathing device, which looks ridiculous when I use it. I'm not going to imitate how I look when I use it because it's going to, you know, somebody's going to take an image of it and make a meme out of it and I'll never live it down. But
then the little ball goes up or something.
well, it's sort of like that. So a lot of like really competitive swimmers and like Olympic swimmers have a device that they use, and it's resistance breathing, and it's to open up your lungs. Yeah. And it's basically, it has all these different settings on it, and you breathe through it and then you exhale through it, and you can adjust the resistance. So at its highest level, it's like you're trying to, and it has a timer on it. So you're trying in like 4 or 5 seconds to breathe in as aggressively as possible through something that feels like you're trying to breathe through a straw, and then you have to blow it all out. And you know, again, it has like a parameter of how, kind of like what you think of that you're blowing it out trying to get the ball to raise, but this is like a pipe apparatus. Gotcha. Anyway, so it's all about you know, trying to train your lungs to intake more air and expel more air. And it's sounds cool, but if you were to watch me actually use it, you'd be like,
well, it's funny you talk about all the preparation. I've heard, like, I used to hear stories about Ronnie James Dio. He's like my favorite singer.
Yeah, yeah.
He'd be smoking a cigarette and then just go on stage, not even warm up. Like, how does, like, some people, I guess, just have that, you know, God-given ability or whatever, you know?
Yeah, not me. I have to work for it. Like, I don't have any God-given ability. I have to practice all the time. I'm on my treadmill doing my vocal exercise. So I can no longer physically run because my knees are so out of, like, just, I could, I'm like borderline crippled with my knees. So what I do instead is I put the treadmill because I'm also trying to get like legit cardiovascular exercise, and I'm trying to be better in that and just be healthier so I can, you know, someday walk both my daughters down the aisle and, you know, not be dead.
Exactly.
So I set it to the point where I'm like speed walking, where if I go any faster I would have to jog, and then I work my way up to it, but I eventually get the incline up to its high. And then when I'm at that point where the incline at its highest and the pace is at the fastest I can go without actually running, then I'll do my vocal exercises for like 10, 15, 20 minutes. It was actually my 9-year-old told me, well, Taylor Swift will yeah, Taylor Swift. I know, I can't, she's everywhere, even in this interview.
You can't get away from her.
Can't get away from her. She'll sing all of her songs while running on the treadmill for like 3 hours. Oh, and wow. I'm not a fan of her music, but I do think that's pretty incredible to have that level of cardiovascular health and it's like, shit, all right, well, I can't run for 3 hours, but I mean, I could do 45 minutes, and I'm getting to the point where I can do our entire set while on the treadmill. And Yeah. I got to work at it every single day. I can't take a day off. Every day I'm trying to work on my vocals, do my exercises, getting my just getting my pipes properly working, trying to expand my range, not only my head voice, but making sure I have proper posture when I'm doing it, my embouchure, all that stuff. And yeah, it's a major pain in the ass. I kind of want to go back to playing guitar after just talking about it. So
This, like, how did you meet the other people in this lineup? How did you meet Sarah, and then Jason and Tyler? All that, like, you know. I mean, you
so
and Sarah
starting
originally.
Yeah, so Sarah and I started the band, and Sarah and I played industrial music for the majority of my life.
Okay.
So before Dust Prophet, Sarah and I were in a band where she played keyboards, and it was a band called Fiends of a New Republic, and it was like industrial, not metal, but more along the lines of, I don't know if you're familiar with like Kidney Thieves or a band like that, KMFDM. You know,
yeah, I know FDM. Yeah,
that was another band I was in that had a female vocalist. So musically, even though it was industrial, the drums had very much of like either like a trancey or a techno-y kind of feel. We used a lot of like break beats and whatnot for the background. Sarah is a classically trained pianist.
Oh, wow.
Growing up would do like you watch on TV where somebody comes out in an auditorium and you can hear a pin drop and there's like 600 people there and they just sit at the piano and go. That's the kind of thing she did. Those major recitals where like you make one little mistake and it's amplified by 1,000 because everybody can hear it. So yeah, she had a pretty good constitution when it came to playing live, because hey, in rock music, who cares if you mess up? It's all about the vibe. It's all about how you get the passion. Anyway, so we played in that band, and she had just started like getting into playing guitar and bass. She had played guitar and bass previously, but she was just seriously getting into it. So when Fiends broke up, we're like, well, we knew we wanted to still play together. And that's sort of like, what do you want to do? What like, if you could start a band from scratch, what type of music do you want to play? And she's like, I love bands like Caius and Fu Manchu and just goes on, Sabbath, obviously, King Buffalo, Clutch is probably her favorite band. And she's a huge Frank Zappa fan. So it was like, let's do stuff like that. That's not based on backing tracks, or we don't need, sequencers or drum machines or anything live. And it's all about groove, and it's all about rhythm, and it's all about the riff. So that's how that started. So we met Tyler through my buddy Bob. So if you look at the liner notes on our album, you see a guy named Bob Dwyer played guitar on 2 songs. He did some lead guest spots. Bob has been one of my oldest friends for 25 years. He was the best man at my wedding. And we went to college together, kind of grew up into adulthood together. He's just like one of my best friends. And he just happened to work with Tyler. And I was depressed one day. Like Sarah and I, we just couldn't get the project off the ground, couldn't find a drummer. If we had more time, I could tell you what could be the equivalent of a Saturday Night Live skit about people we auditioned to play drums for this band. It was one case of just unbelievable shit show after the next. And it would be hysterical if it wasn't so depressing. God, it was just a nightmare. And so I just offhanded to text him. He's like, how you doing? I'm like, I'm doing terrible. Like, I don't think this band's going to work out. We can't. You wouldn't happen to know any drummers by any chance, would you? And just a throwaway comment. He's like, I think I might actually. He's like, yeah, I work with this kid who loves hard rock, and he's always talking about wanting to play stoner metal and doom metal. I thought he was screwing with me, to be honest. And he's like, yeah, his name's Tyler. And he just texted me his info. And I was like, all right, you tell Tyler that I'm going to text him. And then let me know when you talk to him. And he's like, all right, I texted him. And then like 5 minutes later, I texted Tyler directly. I'm like, hey, this is Otto. I'm Bob's friend. Yada yada yada. And he's like, oh, it's cool. So we came over and jammed, and it felt awesome right away. And so I think Sarah and I were like, we got to get this dude to join our band. And so, that's how that started. And thankfully Tyler was way into it. And then lastly, Jason, I've known, as I mentioned earlier, we played in the band many, many years ago together. He's still one of my best friends and one of my closest confidants. After we had played in the band, we sort of lost touch, got back together. He went back to school specifically for audio engineering. And that's actually what he does for a living. And he does big corporate shows for live sound in addition to studio stuff. And he's like, hey man, I'd love to take a stab at mixing your stuff. So I gave him a couple of songs I worked on the side, and they sounded awesome. And eventually, very long story short, we hired him to mix the album after he did a couple of the singles that we had teased, and it just went great. And then as we were playing shows for that first year supporting One Last Look Upon the Sky is when I just got really frustrated having to sing and play at the same time, because I was doing both of them very half-ass. And it's like, man, I could sing 1,000 times better if I didn't have to worry about playing guitar. Some people can do it awesome. I can't. I look at people like, even in other genres of music, like a James Taylor or an Ani DeFranco or whoever, who play very intricate guitar parts while also singing very intricate vocal parts. And I don't have a clue about how they do it. It makes no sense to me. I can't do it. So,
It's funny you say that. I'm a big fan of the blues, and I was reading a book on B.B. King a while back, and that's why he does the call and response blues, because he can't sing and play at the same time.
Yeah, so he just stops playing when he's singing. Yeah,
yeah. So it's just like, hey, it's like some people can do it and some people can't. The next thing I want is the lyrical themes. Some pretty dark stuff, it seems like, in the lyrics. How did you decide to go with that? Is that just some stories you're interested in telling, or
Yeah, I've always been fascinated by true crime. So my father was a cop for many years growing up. And so I've always had exposure to, this is going to sound really douchey, but I don't know how else to say it. I've always had exposure to like violence, not through him or anything, but just through that part of work. And the idea, my stepmom especially, we would talk about it. There is no such thing as if you're a family member of a cop, there's no such thing as a routine pullover or routine traffic stop. That person could be packing. And, I know it's super fashionable to say all cops are bastards. And obviously there's bad cops out there, just like there's bad lawyers, there's bad accountants, whatever. Listen, I'm not going to apologize for being proud of my father for protecting people. So, I've always been exposed to that. And even though he never brought work home with him, inevitably there's things that, affect somebody in their home life that they've seen during the day. And so that sort of fueled my passion for true crime. I'm not into like the violence and the gore, and I certainly don't think people that commit heinous crimes should be celebrated. You get people who like, man, Charlie Manson's awesome, man. I think that's such a load of horse shit and such a cop-out. These are people, whether it's your Edmund Kemper or your Jeffrey Dahmer or your name the person, your Eileen Wuornos. These are people that, even though they themselves had horrible lives in the most cases, lots of people have horrible lives, and there's lots of reasons why people do or do not become a serial killer or do not become a violent offender. I don't think that's something to be celebrated, to be, put on a t-shirt and sold like, aren't I cool because I have a, John Wayne Gacy shirt or something like that. I'm very interested in the psychology about why are some people inherently evil when all of us have baggage in our lives. Ted Bundy did not have a horrible upbringing. Jeffrey Dahmer did not have a horrible upbringing, no worse than, but not ritually abused or sexually abused or anything like that. Other people are, and they don't go on to murder and cannibalize people. So there's a psychology aspect there that fascinates me.
It's funny because I do home care, and I take care of a guy, and he's actually a few years younger than me, and but he has some developmental stuff and he needs help taking care of himself. And the abuse this guy went through, because we kind of got close and talked. Like, the abuse this guy went through is just unreal. You name physical, sexual, whatever he's been through, and but he doesn't. And he's got some issues, obviously, but he's not out there killing anybody or not hurting anybody. No, he's a very nice guy, sweet guy. Loves his cat and stuff like that. So then you wonder, like, how does somebody get so messed up? And that is really intriguing.
Yeah, and we don't know. I mean, they think it's head injuries. They thought it was that McDonald triad, which in hindsight has been proven that, you can't put nearly as much weight onto the bedwetting aspect of the triad as people used to, because there's lots of reasons people wet their bed, from just drinking too much the night before to having actual trauma to having actual stress. Like it's, I'm not going to get off on a tangent here. But to answer your question in a really long-winded way, I'm fascinated by the psychology behind these stories. So, like, a song, When the Axe Falls, that's about the jazz man of New Orleans, the New Orleans axe murderer. That's fascinating to me because it's unsolved. Nobody knows who did it to this day, almost 100 years later. It's grown to this mythos sort of proportion. To me, that makes an interesting song, but I don't want anybody to think that I'm like putting that dude on a pedestal, because I'm not. Dear Mrs. Bud is about somebody that we do know, and as horrific as the crimes against Grace Budd were, that's what fascinates me, is just the way parents thought back in the 1920s and 30s that, we're just going to take let this random old man take our daughter to a birthday party that we just met. So what? I'm sorry, the sound cut out for a second.
Was that the Albert Fish case?
I'm sorry. I probably should have led with that. Albert Fish. Yeah. I take it for granted that people just know. Albert Fish. And he's a fascinating figure in himself, of not only how he grew up and all the things that happened to him, but the things he did to himself, putting needles into his own rectum because they gave him sexual pleasure. And
wow.
Yeah.
How do you find out you're into that? That's what I always wonder. Like, how do you find out you're into that? That's a little weird.
That's probably not something you reveal on a first date, I'm guessing. Like that's probably something you wait till at least like the third date.
Like a list of turn-ons,
Yeah. Like, hey, listen, I didn't mention this when in my Tinder profile, but I'm a huge Red Sox fan. I hope that's not going to be a problem, because I know you like the Yankees. I also love taking sharp metal objects and shoving them in my rectum, because it's the only way I can ejaculate. But I am a huge Red Sox fan.
So, you don't want to shame anyone, right?
Yeah. So he's like, well, I kind of understand the needles in the rectum, but I'm not sure I can get on board with the Red Sox. So
I've known people like that.
Yeah. It's like, that's the turnoff. It's not not all the other weird, perverted shit you might be into. But we're not here to kink shame anybody. But that letter, like, part of the lyrics of Dear Mrs. Bud are quite literally from the letter he sent the mother.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, like, I write from a very historically accurate standpoint. I mean, I could go on and on. So these are things that I find interesting. I just don't want anybody to confuse the fact and think that, like, I'm some sort of Albert Fish fanboy or murder fanboy, because I'm not. I very much enjoy that these people were caught. The Zodiac Killer is another thing. I've been fascinated with that case for probably 25 years.
Oh, me too.
Again, it's unsolved. Those are the cases that I really am fascinated with. And I was like an armchair Zodiac Killer investigator for a while when I was young, thinking like, I'm going to be the guy that cracks the case. Not all the professional detectives and police and the FBI, but me, some random stoner at college. I'm going to, I don't know why I thought I would be smart enough to do it, but
I've come to think the Zodiac that the murder necessarily was not the motivation. I think he loved the attention, and I think he loved the game with the cops, because even after he seemed to stop killing people, he was still sending letters to the police and newspapers for years afterwards.
Yeah.
He loved that kind of cat and mouse and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Dennis Rader, the BTK, same thing. Got pissed off that his name had gotten forgot about. It's crazy. If he hadn't popped his head back up, he probably would still be a free man today. His own hubris and stupidity got him caught. Thank goodness. But
when he got caught, and because he had sent the Detective Lander, I still remember the guy's name. He had sent and he asked him, he said, hey, can you track, if I send you a disc, can you track it? And he said, oh, no, I can't track it. And he was very confused. He said, why did you lie to me? And when he caught, he said to the detective, why did you lie to me? He goes, because I wanted to catch you.
Yeah.
He thought it was like some
genius.
Like, fun,
And newsflash, police are allowed to lie to you. God, it's so dumb that that's how he got caught. It's hilarious, but it's so dumb that that's how he got caught,
He said the hubris.
So, it's the hubris and the, I think there is a part of me that really thinks he wanted to get caught, because it's so dumb that it sort of defies logic. Somebody that could get away with it for that long and would have gotten away, it'd still be unsolved today. I doubt they would have caught him.
You think it was he had to have the credit for it?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think there was part of him that was seething that nobody knew it was him, and it was that narcissism that
All right. Well,
but I mean, I don't know.
Topic. So what are we looking at next for Dust Prophet? You guys have a new album coming up, you said, and because it's been a year since.
So we're still playing shows to support One Last Look Upon the Sky. We're very slowly recording the next album. For a long time, we had this attitude, you know what, we're gonna write and record and still play shows. Like, we're not gonna take time off to just record. We're gonna still play out, and that slows the whole process down. I can see why bands are like, all right, we're gonna take time off and just focus on recording. So Jason got a great job offer to advance his career, and now he's living in the New York City area. Okay. So it makes getting together for practice a little tough, but I mean, we're still full steam ahead. We have a show coming up March 16th in Worcester. Nice. We already have about a dozen shows booked for 2024 so far. So we have several shows in April, in July, that weekend of July 26th, we're doing a little run where we're going to Philly, then Frederick, Maryland, and then Connecticut. On 4/20 in April, we're actually playing in Manchester, our own town. So we're playing all these shows. We're still rehearsing as a 4-piece a couple of times a month. And then Sarah, Tyler, and I get together and work on some of the preliminary studio stuff, tracking drums, getting guide tracks, me doing vocals. And we probably, in terms of like brand new songs, the next album, I'd say we have probably 7 that are like in the can. We play them live. We've live tested them and are ready to go. So the next album is coming. We're trying not to rush it because there's still a lot of people that are discovering us for the first time. So we still want to get a lot of mileage out of the first album and continue to, play heavily live behind that. If I were to guess, I'd say probably fall of this year is where we're gonna releasing like brand new stuff, like teasers, first single, and we'll have a firm date for the album.
Now, are you looking at just releasing it by yourselves, or are you looking for shop it to labels or anything? Or
Well, definitely shopping it to labels, but One Last Look Upon the Sky was totally DIY. We did everything independently, and we're prepared to do that again if we have to. So, but it'd be great to have a label to work with.
I know a buddy of mine, they released an album a couple years ago, and they were shopping it to labels, and they got one label that was really interested, but they couldn't release it for like a year and a half. And they were like, "Look, we kind of need to get it out now," so they weren't able to take the deal, and they ended up self-releasing it. So yeah, they're gonna be quite the rigmarole, you know.
And I understand. I mean, I used to run my own label for many, many years. I understand, like, hey, we got a schedule of releases. We can't release this right now because we already have something lined up and it's going to conflict. And if you're an independent label, you're trying to put 100% of your resources into each individual release so that it maximizes its potential. And you don't want to have to dilute that, which makes sense. I understand that completely. We'd be willing to, we're willing to do anything. We just want as many people to hear what we do as possible. And even if people hate it, it's just trying to get it to as many eyes and ears as possible. So, we're prepared to go it alone, but yeah, it would be awesome to have, some label help. It'd be awesome. So if you know anybody, you send them my way. So
All right, we'll do. Now, find if they're interested in buying your music or getting some, merch or stuff like that? Where can they go to? Bandcamp? I'm sure you're on Bandcamp. I know that.
Yeah, dustprofit.bandcamp.com. We do have a regular .com page, so you can go to dustprofit.com. It's basically like a glorified electronic press kit. You go on it, it's got our bio, it's got our actual EPK, and then all of our social links. So you can get us on Bandcamp, on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, yada, 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 our Facebook, our Twitter, well, X as it's called now, our Instagram, our what else? The fucking OnlyFans, our Grinder, our what else is there? Babesland, Pornhub, all our sites that are, on there. So we're not really on OnlyFans. I don't want to get people's hopes up. So
man. Well, all right, man. That's about all
I thought it would be funny to be on OnlyFans, like to tease it with a bunch of like sexy images that we just like took from the internet. And when they get on there, it's just dumb pictures of us, like just doing dumb shit, like not sexy at all, and just to rope people in. But
you can call only bands.
Yeah, there you go. So
all I have for you tonight, man. So thank you for coming on, Otto. I really love talking to you. Is there anything else you want to say or anything else you want to promote out there?
No, just I would like to give a shout out to Ben. He's the drummer of Fuzz Voyage. He goes by Van Ghazi on Facebook. He recently had a stroke and not doing so hot. There's going to be a benefit for him February 24th, I believe. So if you're on Facebook, go to the Maryland Doom page. It's just literally Maryland Doom. JB Matson from the Maryland Doom Fest, he's organizing it. There's going to be a benefit show for Ben on February 24th. Great guy. We played their Fuzz Voyage is from DC. Hold on one second. Let me get their album.
I think I've heard them.
I got it right. Got the CD right here.
Oh,
so nice. We played with them last year in Maryland, and it's this dude right. It's backwards the way I'm looking at it on the screen, but it's this dude right there. Great band, instrumental band, great drummer, great guy. We had a blast playing with them at Cafe Nola last year in Frederick. Yeah, go to Maryland Doom and just stay up to date on when the benefit show is for him. I'm sure there's going to be information about how you can donate. Just hoping he's okay. And if you got a few bucks that you can throw to help with his medical bills, please do. If not, just, a message, moral support, just, people let him know that they're thinking about him. I think that'd be a pretty awesome thing. So.
Awesome, man. That's great, dude. So everyone get out there, donate, and go pick up some stuff from Fuzzboys. I've heard them before. They're great. So awesome instrumental band.
Awesome.
So that's all for Ossont and Battery. Otto, thank you very much. And everybody, take care, stay metal.
Stay metal. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem, man.
For 45 years in keeping Louisville weird, Electric Ladyland has been there for all your eccentricities. While they do offer the best smoking supplies out on the market today, there's a whole lot more to check out. From ashtrays and blacklight posters, to records, incense and burners, and items to stock your metaphysical supply. They're open from 10 to 10, 7 days a week. Located at 2325 Bardstown Road in Louisville, Kentucky, and at electricladyland420.com. Roll out.
Maxwell's House of Music in Jeffersonville, Indiana is the premier 12,500 square foot music superstore that has served both the southern Indiana and Louisville, Kentucky metro area for over 4 decades. Originally founded by Marvin and Beverly Maxwell in the 70s, this gym remains a Maxwell family-owned business. Mark Maxwell, along with his business partner, Whitney McNichol, continue the reputation as being a national resource for all things music. In 2022, the iconic Guitar Emporium of Louisville relocated to Maxwell's Music, creating the largest independently owned showroom in the region. The retail offerings at Maxwell's Music includes a huge selection of guitars, basses, amplifiers, effects pedals, modeling amps, keyboards, drums, banjos, mandolins, ukuleles, sound systems, stage lighting equipment, and accessories. The music education program at Maxwell's is second to none. From private instrument and voice lessons to DG, EDM, recording, songwriting, and music theory, to rock school, weekend warriors, and Maxwell's Music Lab, there is something for every age and every ability level. In Repairland, guitar and instrument repairs and refurbishment are taken care of by the Maxwell's team of expert guitar technicians and luthiers. They also do instrument appraisals. Maxwell's offers installations for professional audio-visual and lighting systems for schools, churches, clubs, VFWs, funeral homes, sports fields, and so much more. There's also rentable space at Maxwell's, from music practice or rehearsal rooms for individuals or bands, all the way to a meeting space and concert venue that seats up to 120. That also includes a professional audio-visual and lighting system and a sound booth. Maxwell's has it all. All this plus an original, functioning 1947 recording booth to make your own record, to the Guitar Hero throne, to their very own Elvis statue, and don't forget the Harmony Green Pocket Park. There's a reason Maxwell's House of Music in Jeffersonville, Indiana has been recognized by the National Association of Music Merchants as the #1 award-winning Best Store Design, as well as Top 100 Music Store year after year. You gotta see it to believe it. Maxwell's House of Music in Jeffersonville, Indiana.